The clock is officially ticking toward the start of the new league year, and in just 1 week, the real retooling of the 2026 roster begins. For the Detroit Lions, this is where things get serious for general manager Brad Holmes and head coach Dan Campbell. The decisions made over the next stretch won't just shape training camp, they'll define how aggressive this team can be in chasing another championship-caliber season. Before anything else happens, the Lions will need to free up salary cap space. That part is unavoidable. But this front office isn't walking into it blind. They have mechanisms available, contract restructures, potential releases, tools that smart teams use every single offseason. And the key isn't whether they can create space, it's how much they're willing to commit internally versus externally. After the NFL scouting combine, Holmes made something very clear. The Lions are staring at possible contract extensions for linebacker Jack Campbell, running back Jahmyr Gibbs, tight end Sam Laporta, and safety Brian Branch. And here's where it gets interesting for all of us watching from the outside. Holmes explained it in simple but powerful terms. There aren't two separate budgets. There's one pot of money, one. If you believe in draft, develop, and retain, and we know that's been the foundation here, the retain part costs real money. Every dollar used to extend your own stars is a dollar that doesn't go toward an external free agent. The more you keep, the smaller your outside shopping cart becomes. Now, here's the twist. The NFL raised the 2026 salary cap by $22 million, bringing it to $301.2 million per team. That's a 7.9% increase. That jump gives Holmes flexibility. Not unlimited freedom, but breathing room. And flexibility is everything when you're balancing a contender's roster. So let's talk about outside names that could realistically draw interest, not current Lions free agents, but potential additions. At center, Connor McGovern stands out. His 69.1 Pro Football Focus grade in 2025 ranked 13th among centers, and his pass-blocking grade was 6th best. He's also shown versatility at both center and guard. That kind of flexibility matters when you're building depth for a long season. Another interior option is Cade Mays. Just 26 years old, with 20 starts at center over the last 2 seasons, he hasn't allowed a sack in that span. He's viewed as a stronger pass blocker than run blocker right now, but youth and upside always carry weight. And then there's Tyler Biadasz at 28 years old. With 92 games and 84 starts between Dallas and Washington, he brings experience. A 70.7 overall PFF grade last season ranked him 16th among centers. He's particularly strong in the run game and has allowed only 10 total sacks across 6 seasons. That's consistency. If the Lions look to add a physical element to the backfield, Brian Robinson Jr. could fit. At 6'1" and 225 pounds, he's a different style of runner. He's rushed for over 700 yards in each of his first 3 seasons in Washington, averaging 4.1 yards per carry with 17 touchdowns. That kind of durability and toughness brings a different dimension. On the edge, Ebenezer fits the size profile Detroit prefers at 6'6", 260 pounds. He's 27 years old, has never played fewer than 14 games in a season, and recorded 6.0, 6.5, and 6.5 sacks in 3 consecutive seasons before a dip to 2.5 last year. Durability and prior production matter. Then you look at Joey Bosa last season. He was the healthiest he's been since 2021, playing 15 games for Buffalo. He generated 54 quarterback pressures, his most since 2021, along with 0 sacks, 16 quarterback hits, and the league-leading 5 forced fumbles. When healthy, that impact is undeniable. In the secondary, Tariq Woolen brings ball production. Over his first 4 seasons, he's allowed a 70.6 passer rating when targeted, with 12 interceptions and 53 passes defended. Yes, penalties have been part of the conversation, but the playmaking ability jumps off the page. Ojo Yeoman offers versatility. In 2025 alone, he logged 543 snaps at free safety, 314 in the box, and 106 in the slot. That multi-role flexibility fits what Detroit values defensively. At tight end, Charlie Kolar was the 3rd option in Baltimore, but still ranked 8th among qualified tight ends with a 71.5 run-blocking grade. He's averaged more than 14 yards per catch the last 2 seasons. There's upside there, and linebacker Justin Sternad just had the best season of his career, posting a 1 PFF grade on 575 defensive snaps. He added 17 pressures and 4.5 sacks on only 84 pass rush snaps. That's efficiency as a blitzer. So here's where we are. 1 budget, a rising salary cap, core young stars potentially needing extensions, and a list of outside names who could strengthen depth, add competition, or elevate specific units. The real question for this front office isn't whether they can make moves, it's how aggressive they want to be after deciding which of their own stars get paid first. Do you double down on retaining your drafted core and make calculated external additions? Or do you push harder into the free agent market while the window is wide open? What do you think the priority should be? Locking up the young core immediately, or using this cap increase to make a bigger splash outside the building? And this is where the strategy becomes even more fascinating, because it's not just about names on a list, it's about identity. When Brad Holmes talks about one pot financially, that isn't just accounting language, it's a philosophy check. If you commit major extensions to Dan Campbell, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, and Brian Branch, you're making a loud statement that this roster will continue to be built from within. You're saying the foundation is already here, and the smartest move is to secure it long-term before prices climb even higher. But here's the tension. Every year in the NFL is different. Holmes even acknowledged that not every offseason plays out the same. The $22 million cap increase to $301.2 million gives flexibility, but flexibility doesn't automatically mean spending big. It means options. And options are only valuable if you choose the right ones. Take the offensive line discussion. If the Lions feel comfortable with their internal development, they may view someone like Connor McGovern, Cade Mays, or Tyler Biadasz as competition pieces rather than splash signings. All three bring experience and pass protection stability, and in a league where interior pressure can derail playoff runs, that matters. But does adding a center make sense if that money could instead secure one of your rising stars long-term? Now look at the defensive front. A.J. Epineza fits the size mold Detroit prefers on the edge. He's durable, he's in his prime at 27, and his 3-year stretch of 6.0, 6.5, and 6.5 sacks shows proven production. Joey Bosa, meanwhile, brings proven disruption when healthy. 54 pressures and a league-leading 5 forced fumbles last season show he can still tilt games. But with Bosa, you're always evaluating risk versus reward. Are you investing in immediate impact or long-term continuity? The secondary conversation might be just as intriguing. Tariq Woolen's 12 interceptions and 53 passes defended over 4 seasons scream playmaker. He's allowed just a 70.6 passer rating when targeted. That's real ball production. Yes, penalties have been part of his story, but turnovers change playoff games. Adding someone like that creates internal competition and depth in a room that already prides itself on versatility. Speaking of versatility, Ojo Gilman's snap distribution tells you everything about his value. Free safety, box safety, slot corner, he's done it all. In a defense that values flexibility and disguise, that kind of chess piece can quietly become invaluable over a 17-game grind. And then there are the complementary pieces that sometimes end up becoming key contributors. Brian Robinson Jr. brings physicality at 225 pounds, over 700 rushing yards in each of his first 3 seasons, and 17 career touchdowns. That's consistency. Charlie Kala's 71.5 run blocking grade and 14-yard per catch average show he's more than just a depth tight end. Justin Stern adds 17 pressures and 4.5 sacks on only 84 pass rush snaps, reveal efficiency that defensive coordinators love. But every one of these possibilities circles back to the same central question. How much of that $301.2 million cap do you allocate internally before you even think about outside help? Holmes has built this roster on discipline. The draft has been the engine, development has been the fuel, retention is the maintenance, and free agency? That's the turbo boost, but only if the engine underneath is secured first. This next week isn't just about adding talent, it's about protecting the culture that got Detroit here. The Lions are no longer in rebuild mode, they're in sustain and elevate mode. That's a very different challenge. It requires restraint at times. It requires boldness at others. And as we wait for the official start of the new league year, everything feels like it's balancing on that one decision tree. Extend your stars first and adjust accordingly. Or keep some powder dry for a targeted move that could push you over the top immediately. Because once those contracts are signed, once that cap space is allocated, there's no separating retained budget from free agent budget. It's all one pot. One strategy, one direction. Now I want to hear from you. If you're sitting in that front office chair, do you secure Campbell, Gibbs, Laporta, and Branch first and build around them no matter what? Or do you think this is the moment to use the cap increase to make one bold outside addition that could change everything? That's why this moment feels bigger than just another offseason checkpoint. It's not about headlines. It's about sequencing. If extensions for Dan Campbell, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, and Brian Branch move forward, that shapes everything else before the first outside offer is even considered. Once those numbers are locked in, the flexibility becomes clearer and possibly tighter. And here's what makes it compelling for us as fans, analyzing it from the outside. This front office has shown discipline before. The philosophy of draft, develop, and retain isn't just a slogan. It's been executed. But retaining young impact players means committing serious money while they're still ascending. That can be the smartest investment you make, or it can limit how aggressive you are elsewhere. Now, imagine the ripple effect. If Detroit prioritizes internal extensions heavily, the outside additions might lean more toward value signings. That's where someone like Cade Mays or Tyler Biadasz becomes intriguing, experienced, steady, not necessarily top-of-market contracts. The same logic could apply on defense, with a versatile player like Alohi Gilman or a high-upside depth option like Justin Strnad. But if Holmes decides there's room to maneuver more aggressively, then a proven impact edge like Joey Bosa or a durable presence like A.J. Epineza suddenly becomes more than just a theoretical fit. They become statements. And statements matter when you're trying to maintain contender status. Even Brian Robinson Jr. represents a philosophical choice. Do you add a physical, 225-pound presence to complement what's already in the backfield? Or do you trust internal depth and allocate resources elsewhere? Every signing reflects a belief about where the roster needs reinforcement the most. The salary cap rising to $301.2 million gives Detroit breathing space, but breathing space isn't unlimited freedom, it's controlled opportunity, and the front office has to weigh present impact against future stability. That balancing act defines sustainable contenders. What makes this particularly fascinating is that the Lions are no longer building from the ground up. They're fine-tuning. They're adjusting weight distribution on a machine that's already running at high speed. A miscalculation can be costly, but the right calculated addition can be the difference in January. So as we wait for the official start of the new league year, the silence is strategic. Conversations are happening. Numbers are being run, scenarios are being mapped out, and everything connects back to that single financial pot Brad Holmes described. Now, it shifts back to you. If you had to choose just one path, maximize internal retention, or make one calculated external splash, which direction keeps? Detroit in the strongest position for 2026 and beyond, and the deeper you think about it, the clearer it becomes that timing might be just as important as talent. Extensions don't just affect this year's cap, they project forward. Locking in players like Dan Campbell, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, and Brian Branch now could actually create cost certainty before the market at their positions rises even further. Waiting can sometimes mean paying more later. Acting early can be a long-term advantage, but acting early also compresses short-term flexibility. That's the tension. If Detroit chooses to handle one or two extensions immediately and staggers the others, that could create phased flexibility. It could allow Holmes to explore a mid-tier free agent addition while still protecting the long-term structure. That kind of layered planning is often how sustainable contenders operate, not by swinging wildly, but by stacking smart decisions. And let's consider the locker room factor. When drafted players see the organization reward homegrown talent, it reinforces belief in the system. It sends a message that performance and development here lead to long-term security. That culture piece doesn't show up on a cap sheet, but it absolutely impacts the building. On the flip side, bringing in the right external